Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Some breaking news: Rafael Nadal is out of Roland Garros 2023 and for the foreseeable future. We're going to get into it, talk about the press conference he just had where he announced it at the Rafael Nadal Academy. Also talk about what this might mean for the rest of his year, also for 2024, which is the year that he stated as being his last and farewell season of his career. Well, that's his plan anyways. And then also what it might mean for Roland Garros this year, the field, how does it affect the dynamic? Does it affect the dynamic at all? And, hopefully we see him back on court soon. But let's get into it. Before we do that, remember that like button, subscribe if you can, also do leave a rating or review. Okay, well, first of all of you know, or should know, that I'm, big Rafa Nadal fan. And, when it comes to doing analysis and previews and predictions, etc., and talking about him, I try to keep it very unbiased. But if there is a little bit of my kind of Rafa Nadal fanboy coming out in this video, apologies, just because, this is a pretty disappointing, I think, announcement. And I have seen also not just Rafa Nadal fans, but fans of tennis and even, for example, fans of Djokovic and other tennis players, they've also been saying that they're really disappointed and upset that he's going to miss it because it just seemed like it was going to shape up to be a fantastic tournament, especially if he was going to be involved. But he has never, ever played Roland Garros throughout his whole career. So he's never, ever played Roland Garros throughout his career without any clay court matches before the tournament. And then when he rejected the wild card in Bordeaux this week as well, and hasn't played Madrid, Barcelona, Rome, Monte Carlo, it looked like he was going to be on the cards, and I predicted that would be the case. I was hoping it wouldn't be, but I thought, look, it can happen. And, then also thought, well, maybe he will try and I know Gil Gross mentioned this, he might see whether he can prepare early for the grass court season. He hasn't in the past, ordinarily been able to play any warm-up events because he's always gone on to win Roland Garros and doesn't really give him a lot of time to rest. But what he's done, I think, and said in his press conferences, it looks pretty unlikely he's even going to play Wimbledon. So a lot of people optimistic, if you were Nadal fans, thinking that given the rest of the field, generally speaking, apart from Djokovic, really, as the real standout on grass, of course, and he is the big favourite at Wimbledon. And then you can talk about maybe someone like Berrettini as well, as, the level below, and there's a few other players there. But generally speaking, Nadal, after Djokovic, given his experience, is actually very, very good on the grass in comparison to the others, and he has that experience. I think for the other players on tour, they just haven't really had the level of experience on grass and haven't played enough tournaments, enough matches on there to really get to grips with the movement, the surface as a whole. And someone like Tsitsipas tried to do it last year, and he had some varying success. Of course, let's not forget Nick Kyrgios as well, who's coming up from injury. But anyways, it looks like he's not going to play Wimbledon either. US Open's in the air. He has said he plans to play the Davis Cup this year. Now, from what I can tell, the Davis Cup later this year is in September. Now, does that mean that he will play the US Open, which is just before? Because this year, from what I can see, the 2022 finalists. So Australia will begin its 2023 coverage. Okay, fine. But when are the... Here we go. We've got... So 12th to 17th of September 2023, group stage, knockouts 21st to 26th of November. So, I mean, I'm assuming he's saying group stages because that he wouldn't be assuming Spain are just going to get through. And the US Open this year is before that, August 28th to September 10th. Now, he has said that he might be out for a month. It could be 2 months, could be 3 months, could be 4 months. So basically, he needs to have a rest from playing any sort of tennis. And of course, we're talking about that hip injury, which he's had since the Australian Open. He hasn't played any tennis since the Australian Open. And he's saying, look, I need some time to rest. And in fact, a direct quote from him, so that you don't have to just take my word for it. He said, I didn't make the decision. My body made the decision to play Roland Garros. Is impossible. Next year will he said, Next year will be my last year on tour. That is my idea. If I keep going now, I won't be able to make that happen. He also said, I was working as much as possible every single day for the past 4 months, and they have been difficult because I've not been able to find a solution to the problem I had in Australia. I'm not in the position to be able to compete, to be at the standard to play Roland Garros. I'm not a guy who will just be at Roland Garros. So basically saying that he is not happy to just make up the numbers at Roland Garros. He wants to go into a tournament, or especially Roland Garros, and know that he can compete and win it. And that was kind of my feeling when he has missed all of those clay court tournaments beforehand, is that he knows he's going to go into it half cooked. And even someone who has won 14 Roland Garros trophies, he knows he's towards the back end of his career. It's not a good mixture. He said here, I will stop for a while, maybe 1 month, maybe 3 months, or maybe 4 months. I do not like to predict the future. I will do the right thing for my body and personal happiness. My motivation is to enjoy the season and say goodbye to all the tournaments I have enjoyed in my career. If I keep going now, I will not be able to make that happen. He's also said that an MRI scan 2 days after the match showed a tear in his left psoas muscle. That was after the Australian Open loss to Mackenzie McDonald, and that hip injury that he suffered during it. He said here, he announced he wouldn't be playing the Madrid Open because the injury still hadn't healed. And yeah, he just said, the French Open said, could not imagine how hard the decision was for the player. And in their statement said, we'll definitely miss you at this year's Roland Garros. Take care of yourself to come back stronger on court. Hoping to see you next year in Paris. Of course, next year as well is the Olympics. And the Olympics will be held at Roland Garros during the year in 2024. And that'll be interesting as well. Maybe he thinks, he'll try and compete there. But look, it's sad news, of course, and he was going to be one of the favourites, even if he came into it with zero experience, zero match practice, even going into it. But he's turning 27. Sorry, 27. Oh, if you're a Nadal fan, you wish. He's turning 37 next month. And look, this is the first time he's ever not played Roland Garros in his career, which is incredible to think about. So first time he's not going to be playing Roland Garros in 19 years. Out of those 19, well, so of course this is the 19th year, so 14 out of the 18 years he's won. I mean, that's incredible. Absolutely incredible, to say the least. And a couple of losses, of course, but a couple of, I think, retirements as well. And it's just one of those things that, you know, Roland Garros without Nadal is just very, very strange because he's so good. I mean, his record is 112-3. He has a 97.4 win percentage, and of course has a perfect 14-0 record in finals. I mean, it's just crazy to think about, of course. And all I'm going to say is Roland Garros will still be, it will be exciting in the sense that it's going to be, I think, even more open now, I think, with Nadal not playing. But it will be different. It'll have a different feel to it. You won't have that ominous, the players won't feel that ominous kind of inevitability of having to face Nadal on his favorite court. And a lot of people say that Nadal at Roland Garros, on the main court in a final of the French Open is the hardest challenge to face in tennis. Is Nadal at the French Open final? I mean, it's just the hardest thing you can imagine, and it's very, very hard to disagree. But anyway, he's equal on 22 slams with Djokovic, so a big opportunity for Djokovic, of course, at this Roland Garros, who recently lost to Holger Rune in the quarterfinals of Rome. But it'll be Djokovic, Rune, Alcaraz, a couple of others as well will be vying for the title. Casper Ruud's starting to look quite good as well again at this time of the year. Look, it's a massive shame. It is. What does this mean then for the rest of the year for him? So he said there's no real return date. I mean, he said he plans to play the Davis Cup, which, as I said, if he's talking about the group stages, that's after the US Open. So he could theoretically miss Wimbledon and the US Open. I would be surprised. I know he's been practicing. I I could see him coming back to play the US Open. Obviously, it looks very unlikely he's going to play Wimbledon, but I say that I can see him playing the US Open, but he'd need to play some tournaments before then, or at least one. So maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just misses it. And I think his mindset, by the looks of it and by what it sounds like, is this year. It's not necessarily a write-off, but he doesn't really foresee much going on this year, in terms of his career. And I think in I think for him, he knows 2024 is the end game. 2024 is the end game. That's going to be his farewell tour, his farewell year, and that's exactly what he is prepping for. He wants to be able to play all four slams next year. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, of course, and we'll speak very, very soon. Looking forward to people's comments, of course. Heartbreaking news for Rafa fans, and if you're a tennis fan, generally speaking. For other fans, you might be sad, but also happy that whoever you're supporting is going to have a much better chance at Roland Garros. Guys, thank you very much. Stay safe and well. See you on the next video.